Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from the pages of Today's Homeowner magazine and remodeling contractor Danny Lipford.
Welcome to the show this week. You know, the developers of newer neighborhoods are creating smaller and smaller lots in order to build homes on because they're trying to utilize the land the best they can. The problem it causes, like we have with these homeowners, they've lived here several years, they need some extra living area. The last thing they want to do is encroach out into their yard, taking up more of the lot they have available. The solution they found, and many homeowners are finding, is to encroach into the large attic space they have to satisfy that need for a more living area. Now, with the steep roof pitch we have here is allowing us to add over 1,000 square feet to this home. Now, we'll look at that, as well as we'll take a look at another project where we've completely removed the roof from a 1,900 square foot house and built an addition on top of it that's 1,900 square feet as well. Now, if you're considering going up instead of out, don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. Now, the owners of this home have lived here a little over 3 years, and as the kids are growing up, they realized they need more living space. Now, they looked at several other larger houses in different neighborhoods. They came back home, realized how much they really like this neighborhood. They also like how the house is positioned at the end of a cul-de-sac, which means very little traffic. And because the appraised values of the homes in the neighborhood are continuing to rise, they felt very comfortable in investing the money in building the second-story addition. Now, not only will the homeowners gain a nice playroom, a new bedroom, new bathroom, study area, and lots of storage, I'm sure they'll get a lot of use out of the new balcony that's being built that'll allow access from the game room right out onto the balcony. The balcony will also serve as a covered area for the new patio that'll be poured with concrete down at the floor level. Real nice area that'll be developed there. But of course, any second-story addition starts with a new staircase to provide proper access to that second level. Now, one of the challenges you have when you're trying to position a staircase is that first of all, you want it to look original to the house. Also, you don't want it to affect the downstairs area by taking up too much room. Now, luckily, we had a fairly good-sized sunroom here to work with, but still, if we had positioned it in any other area, it would have just taken up too much room. But by tucking it here in the corner and having a nice landing as a transition to turn this corner, really tucks in nicely in this corner. Also, the way we frame this allows a little space under the stairs that can be used for maybe a little computer desk or even another piece of furniture. Now, the homeowners plan on installing pad and carpet over the steps, which will really help to deaden the sound of those little feet running up and down the stairs. Now, as soon as you come up the new staircase, you realize just how much of an area we have to work with in this attic space. But in order to accomplish the type of playroom the homeowners wanted, we had to do a little modification to gain a little more space. You can see the original roof line here that extended right across this particular area. Not enough room for the playroom they wanted. So in order to build the walls up, we also had to take care of a new roof area. You can see where the new roof area meets the old, and this creates just enough space and enough headroom for the new playroom. Now let me show you how we're going to kind of allocate all of this area with the new walls that'll be built. This is the balcony area I'd mentioned earlier that feeds right off of the playroom, and we're positioned right about here. Then we have the bedroom behind us with the vaulted dormer that'll go out, giving some good natural light from the front. And also will be a good look because of the archways that we'll have over these aluminum windows. Over on this side, a nice sized study, plenty of closets, full bathroom on this side, and some nice storage on the other side as well. Now, you know, one of the first things we had to do in this project is to bring our air conditioning contractor out and reroute all of our lines out on the perimeter, because a lot of the air conditioning lines and plumbing lines, as you can see, were located in this area, had to be moved out to the outskirts. Also, in the design, we were careful to stay away from this, piping and vent for the fireplace below so that that wouldn't have to be disturbed. A new wall will go right up in this area. You know, there is a lot of considerations, and many times to consult with a structural engineer to determine on the load that you'll have here is extremely important. We certainly talked with a structural engineer to design all of the glue lam beams that we used and all of the joists that we had to use in order to provide a good surface. Now when we get back after this simple solution, we'll show you where we've actually doubled the square footage of a house by building a 1900 square foot addition on top of an existing house by removing the roof completely. Stay with us.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine repair and maintenance editor Joe Truini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by Dodge.
Now a home office like this can really benefit from some additional shelving, particularly if it's an adjustable shelving, and Joe's got a great technique.
The easiest way to install adjustable shelves are with small metal shelf pegs like this, which fit into 1/4-inch diameter holes. You need 4 for each shelf. But the two most important things to installing an adjustable shelf is first, the holes have to be perfectly aligned, and you have to drill the holes to the correct depth. To keep the holes aligned, we made a template out of a piece of pegboard, and we covered up all the holes that we did not want to drill. And as you can see, we have positions for 3 different locations for the shelf. Then you simply drill a hole in the front and rear of each shelf position, and to keep from drilling too deeply, we have a depth gauge here. It's simply a 1x1 with a hole drilled through it, and you slip it on and you leave about 5/8 of an inch of the drill bit sticking out.
Now this system works great in a home office like this, but it'll also work equally as well on any bookcases or cabinetry you have in your home. Now this house is a typical looking 2-story home, but it wasn't long ago it was a 1-story ranch style 1900 square foot home with a very low pitched roof. Now these homeowners were faced with similar situation that we looked at earlier in the show, in that they needed significantly more living area but really didn't want to give up any of their yard space in order to accomplish that additional area. So their solution again is to build up instead of building out. Now they went around and looked at a lot of other homes that would provide them the 4 bedrooms and 3 baths that they needed. But after looking at the expense of that home, the expense of moving, and the trauma associated with relocating your family, they decided this was the best bet for them. Now of course one of the concerns they had, and certainly you should as well if you're considering a project like this, is will the foundation, the existing foundation, handle this additional load? Now the way the 2nd-story addition was designed, most of the weight of the addition was bearing on the front wall and the rear wall of the home. Now we used large wood I-beams to span this area, resting on the front wall and spanning over to the back wall, so that the interior walls were really carrying very little weight. But also that made this foundation here and the rear one extremely important. Now to determine what type of foundation we really had under the home, we dug large pilot holes so that we could really reach under and measure the thickness of the concrete under these walls. Well, after consulting with an engineer and showing him what we discovered in the existing foundation, he suggested that we really needed to beef up the front and the rear wall. Now the way we did this is by digging a trench under this wall and the rear wall on 8-foot sections, and then skipping an area and then digging another 8-foot section so that we could pour concrete under this and actually pour it to a point that was higher than the actual footing so that it would cradle the existing foundation and give us a good continuous support on the front and the rear wall. Then of course once all of the landscaping has grown up here, since it's been a couple years since this project's been completed, everything looks normal and no problems at all in the actual span. Now, in the design, we also decided to, instead of carrying the bricks on up, we switched to siding, which of course is much lighter than brickwork or any type of masonry. And architecturally, it looks a little better than bricks would, because bricks would tend to give it kind of a top-heavy look to it. Now this was a fairly tough project for us in that we had to remove the entire roof structure, the rafters, the decking, everything, to where we were looking at the back side of the drywall ceiling and the insulation. Now to protect the house during construction, we used a series of tarps to build a large tent over the entire house. Now you may be asking yourself at this point, I wonder if the homeowners stayed in the house during the construction period. Well, actually, we worked with a local realtor that found a home nearby that the homeowners could move into for the 3-month period while all the construction was taking place. And it was close by enough they could keep an eye on everything as well. Now, earlier in the show, I talked about how important it is to have a good, graceful access from the first level to the second level so that once the work is completed, the house will look like it originally was built in that way. Let me show you how we handle the staircase on this house. Now, we used a similar approach on this staircase as the one we looked at earlier in having one section of the stairs come up and meet a landing and then wind around for the second part of the stairs to lead you up to the second level. Now, anytime that you can create a staircase like this, you're able to tuck it in the corner, and because this is visible from the front entryway, really makes it look like it's original part of the house. Also, if you're able to eliminate all of the walls around it like we've done here, really creates a spacious feeling and an openness in the staircase, as well as the adjacent areas with the hallway and the large den that we have on the second level. Now, to enhance that even more, we've built a 2-story or 2-section recessed ceiling, and with the lighting that we're getting, the natural light from the windows on the front and the back, really has created a nice room, just what the homeowners wanted. Now, stay with us. After this Best New Product segment, we'll check in on our attic expansion project.
It's time to check out this week's Best New Product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Paul Spring. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Now, Paul, a plunge router is something that we use on many of our projects for our finish work, but I don't really see it as a homeowner type tool.
I think to a large degree you're right, Danny. It's been used by woodworkers and folks doing really advanced projects, but it's been a heavy shop kind of tool with a heavy price tag. And what Skill has done here is address that with a very modest price, $125, in a 2-horsepower plunge router.
Now tell us about some of the features that it has.
Features are pretty typical for a plunge router. It has variable speed, which you dial in here. It also has the typical stops, allow you to use it as a plunge router or as a regular router. And you've got your trigger right out here in the handle where it's nice and safe.
Okay, well, speaking of safety, another feature that this particular plunge router has is the soft start. What that allows you to do is start out very slowly with the motor, allowing you to encroach into the wood you're working on, making it a lot safer and a lot more precise.
The other thing I like, Danny, is a new feature, and this is a terrific one. It's called the Jacobs Router Chuck, and it allows you to throw away the wrenches and literally to change a router bit. You pop that out, there's your bit, you put in a new one and snap it right back in.
Oh, that's great, great feature.
You know, this router is a good example of being able to buy a tool at a price that allows you to find the capabilities in the projects you do.
Well, we're back on the project that we started the show with, and it's been a couple weeks since we've been here and a lot has taken place. Now, this is a project where we're adding over 1,000 square feet to an existing house, and we're accomplishing most of that square footage by taking up the large attic space that was available. Then we added a few feet here and there to really create the type of rooms that the homeowners wanted. Now, this particular area is serving 2 purposes. One, it'll provide a waterproof covering for the concrete patio that's being poured down below us. Then on top, after all of the membrane roofing is put down, we'll be using treated wood to build some panels that can be lifted off periodically to clean out from under it and perform any roof maintenance if it's necessary. Now, the roofer plays a very important role in this project because of this situation here. With the roof coming in this direction as well as into this direction, there's a lot of water that's going to be hitting this wall. A lot of times this is called a parapet wall. Now, the membrane roofing we're using is being used instead of shingles because of the low pitch that we have here, as well as on the upper area that covers the majority of the 2nd-story addition. Now, they installed this by using a hot tar kettle to heat up the tar and use it as a base. Then they use the membrane roofing, which has the granular finish very similar to our shingles, but we've used this because of the low pitch being below 3 and 12. Now, 3 and 12 pitch means a 3-inch rise in a 12-inch travel area. Anytime you have anything below that, you have to use something other than shingles. With this material, having a granular finish should match the shingles real well and, more importantly, serve the purpose of being good and functional. Now, before they put the material down here, the roofers will be installing the special made flashing, sidewall flashing that we've used. It's made out of aluminum, so we won't ever have to worry about it rusting. And then comes up about 14 inches, out about 8 inches, and has a little crimp here right out on the edge so that if any water gets into this area, it will not be able to pass over and cause a problem down below. Now, once this is installed, our stucco contractor will use cement board to cover this area, making it virtually impossible for any type of water to really get down, cause us some problems. Now, I mentioned the stucco contractor. You can see he's already installed his cement board on this upper area, and he'll be ready in a day or two to start applying his finish coats on this synthetic stucco system. Now, the reason we've used stucco in this case instead of going with brick, which is the majority of the exterior wall covering on this house, is because of a number of code issues here. Primarily, you don't want to support something heavy like bricks on a combustible material like wood, because in the event of a fire, those bricks could collapse, causing some problems for the firemen that are fighting that fire. So many people are choosing to use stucco in areas like this, as well as chimney areas, and we're lucky in that the front of the house has been accented with stucco so that we'll be able to blend these two areas in. Now, one of the most significant changes that has taken place on this project over the last couple weeks is the large dormer that's been constructed on the front of the house. Now, before we started this project, the front of this house was fairly dull. It just had a large hip roof that came straight up. Actually, this hip rafter continued right up to the ridge. And with the new dormer roof that was built here on the front, you can just barely see any difference between the old shingles and the new shingles. Now, this dormer roof is serving several purposes. One, it's providing more headroom on the new living area inside. Also gives us an opportunity to put some nice windows out front, good natural light, and architecturally, it helped the front of the house a lot. Now, with the new dormer being 14 feet long and almost 8 feet tall, it kind of dominates the front look of this house. And the design of the 3 windows with the circle head or palladium windows over it really makes it look great from the outside as well as the inside. Now, when we come back after our Around the Yard segment, I'll give you some more things you need to consider if you're thinking of building up instead of out.
Now, let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Jennifer Brennan. Brought to you by Scott's Lawn Products, for a great lawn, guaranteed.
Most gardeners know the value of compost, and getting compost is as easy as piling a stack of yard waste over in the corner of the yard, but we found a better option.
And a lot more attractive option with this static compost bin we found at the home center for about $80. It was very easy to assemble and has some pretty good features to it, like the doors on the front and the back that allow you to remove the doors and shovel out the compost from either end. Also, on each side, you have large vent holes that will allow air to get into the compost bin as well as the rainwater, which is very important. And on the top, you have this sloped as well so that water can gather and get inside, and very easy lift off here so that you can continually add new materials.
And those materials are 4 basics: the green materials like grass clippings, the brown materials like dried leaves, and then the air and water. If you use this, you'll have great compost in less than a year.
Now, once the roofing and the stucco contractor complete their work, then the focus will be on the interior of this project. Now, if you're considering building up instead of building out, make sure the architectural stylings of your addition blend in well with the existing house. And also, check with a structural engineer to make sure you won't have any problems down the road once your project is complete. I'm Danny Lipford, and we'll see you next week here on Today's Homeowner.